Hello and welcome to this Tattersalls Cheltenham Festival preview. This is a show that we're doing for a third year running, courtesy of it being such a hit during COVID. We've got to keep the ball rolling, and it's the same team assembled again, thank goodness. We have Jamie Codd and Richard Pugh to go through all things Cheltenham Festival. This is the Cheltenham Festival preview show that you need because you're going to get different insight, and that's what it's all about with these things, being a little bit different. And of course, my panel is absolutely perfect. As I already mentioned, we've got Jamie Codd, 10-time Cheltenham Festival winner, and he knows what it takes to win at Cheltenham. And on top of that, his ears to the ground, his fingers in loads of pies. We've got all the intel from him. And then Richard Pugh, what he lacks on the score sheet in terms of actual Cheltenham Festival winners, he makes up for with an encyclopedic book of knowledge for all things horse racing. And check that out for an intro. I actually think that's pretty perfect. Hey, Jamie?
Encyclopedia. I think, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there for Richard.
Well,
I can't believe that you did Jamie's intro with the 10 winners first and then landed on me trying to scramble for a word. Between us, we've had 10 winners, and we don't need in this preview. So we have 10 winners between us. I'm happy.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, sorry. I'm not very good at this job, I'm afraid. 10 winners between us on this show. Excellent, Richard. Before we get started, 2 weeks to go roughly. How excited are you, Richard, for the festival? Have you enjoyed the build-up so far?
Of course you do. I mean, we've got so many build-up moments along the way. For me, it starts in Ryle. Right back in October, you're into the big John Durkin meeting where we saw Gallop and Deschamps, Christmas, Dublin Racing Festival. Then you're looking across to you guys to see where your prep runs are coming between the Trials Day at Cheltenham. So it's just ready to blow in 2 weeks. But what I do think we have is we have a great spread. It all looked very obvious about a month ago, and now it looks a little bit more tricky than we thought it might.
So true, so very true, and that's what we love. I think Dublin Racing Festival really threw a few things up in the air. Jamie, how's your build-up being? Have you been around plenty of yards? What's the sort of vibe like on the ground?
Yeah, look, it's as Richard said, it probably starts a lot earlier now, like from down Ryle up to Christmas to Dublin Racing Festival for us at home. Little bits in the middle, like Naas, the Lawlers, that and those types of races. But I suppose a lot of trainers now are just hoping to get their horses there. It's that final prep. I'd imagine a lot of horses will do their last kind of galloping this week. So it's nervous times ahead for trainers, but also equally exciting.
Absolutely, nervous times indeed, and nervous times for jockeys as well. Them riding now, dare I say it, new whip rules, but also injury, just trying to get to the festival. Everyone is a little bit jumpy, but not us. Let's kick straight on with day one. We're going to rattle through all the big races over all 4 days, and of course, no better place to start than the Supreme on the Tuesday 1:30 kickoff over the 2 miles. And Richard, you've already mentioned that things were looking a little obvious a month ago, and less so now. And those rules really do apply to Fehily, who's up at the top of the market. Obviously, you had this unbeaten record, and then well beaten when we saw him at the Dublin Racing Festival. He is still the favourite. Marine Nationale in there after him. Empire Ed Pass for Willie Mullins as well, and Gaelic Warrior Lucia for Nicky Henderson. And we've got a fair clutch of Tattersalls graduates too. So where to start with the Supreme, please, Richard?
Look, I think it's even for Willie Mullins, it's too big an ask to turn Fehily around to be what he could be in a couple of weeks or for whatever it is, 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm going to bypass him. Barry Connell couldn't have been any more positive about Marine Nationale in his interview. I know he didn't run at the Dublin Racing Festival, but he was absolutely adamant that he'd landed on the one. So you have to respect that. I think probably for me, Empire Pass is by a sire that I don't think gets enough credit. Diamond Boy is a sire of Lawn Presse, who was probably possibly the most impressive chaser at the festival, emerging chaser last year. Hasn't quite worked out from this year. The sire of Diamond Carl. This fella falls under the radar a little bit. He was a very impressive maiden hurdle winner at Naas. He follows up then at Punchestown in a proper smart hurdle. So we haven't quite got to the bottom of him yet, and he's probably for me the best of Willie's, because I worry about Fehily, and I think he'll give Paul a real challenge as to what he rides. Timurus for the Fehily team, you'd have to be interested in. But if you are, just to start throwing a few outsiders in from the very outset, this is left of field for the first race. But at 50 to 1, Hasn't done anything to suggest that he should be in the mix yet, other than being 6 lengths behind Tamouris in that Grade 1, is Colonel Harry, who's a high cruising February graduate from last year. He looked a very smart horse at this point of point. He's only beaten 6 lengths in his Grade 1. He's won since. He's only rated 130. He's a long way to go. But at 50 to 1, if you like an outsider bet, throw your 5 each way on him. But for me, Impera passes the winner.
Goodness me, starting with a bang. Love that. Absolutely love that from Richard. That is what I mean about this encyclopedic knowledge I'm talking about. Jamie, I don't think you can beat that in terms of price, but are you with Richard in the fact that we're bypassing Fehily Vega?
Look, I will always forgive a horse one run. You know, I think a lot of things went wrong for him in Leopardstown. So on the back of that, you have to forgive him. You know, I think Paul will probably do things a little different over the first 2 or 3 hurdles in Cheltenham, and if he does, you know, if he does, we'll see the proper Fehily Vega that won there last year, and then also was very impressive at Christmas. So look, I'm not writing him off. He's a very, very good horse, and so you can't write him off. Like Barry O'Connell, it'll be a marvellous result for him and his small team if Marine National did pop up to win this. I know he's very, very confident. He had another winner the other day. His horses seem to be in great form. So, you know, he's going there with his great chance. To be fair to Richard, he's actually hit probably, if you're fancying Paul Nicholls Tamouris with Noel and David Cross with their syndicate horse, you would have to give Colonel Harry a small chance. All his form at home here was on betterish ground. I'd imagine he jumped a fraction left in Sandown making the running, which is not ideal. He'll go to Cheltenham now, going the right way around. And Sandown was probably tacky enough that day as well for a horse to make the running. So for what Richard is saying is spot on. At 50 to 1, if you want a good value each way bet that'll get you down to the second last and maybe even halfway down to the last with a chance, then I think that horse is probably a horse that should be backed at that. The other one that I know has been brought back on really well, I was talking to Ollie Murphy the other day, Chasing Fire, a Maxius horse of Dennis Murphy's. He won in Fairyhouse a couple of years ago, and in fairness to Ollie, he's brought him on the slow way. But every day he's been very, very impressive. You know, the last day in Sandown, it was a good performance. He's won well. So we don't really know what the bottom is. And that's what I like. So, you know, when you're looking for a bit of value, those 2 horses are probably the ones that offer a little bit of value on the UK side of it.
Brilliant. This is what I'm talking about. This sort of insight, bigger prices. Absolutely love it. We've started. We've sort of set the bar very high here in the Supreme, but we are rolling on now to the Arkle, of course, the next race Tuesday. Such a big day, and a really big day for the trainer Nicky Henderson, who, of course, a little bit later will be saddling Constitution Hill. But before he does that, he has John Bon in the Arkle. And because we bring you everything you need to know on this show, we've got some excellent interviews lined up for you. And that includes the first one, which we will head to now, which is where Richard caught up with John Bon's trainer, Nicky Henderson. He's a very busy man, so Richard spoke to him yesterday.
Nicky Henderson, we are 2 weeks out from the Cheltenham Festival, and if I know you, it's as exciting now as it ever has been.
I don't call it exciting, I call it terrifying, but there you go.
There's an element of excitement in there. I can see it in your eye. We're going to begin with our Derby Cell graduate, John Bon, sold by Churchview Stables to Paul Holden and Michael Shefflin. Happy with where he's at 2 weeks out?
Yeah, very. He's been good. He's actually going to go to Kempton tomorrow. We're taking quite a few of them to Kempton to have a little spin round on the all-weather tomorrow, and he'll be going there to do that. I'm pleased with him. He's in good form, and I think he's had it a little bit too easy his first 2 races, and that the other day it just sort of rather just sharpened his mind up a little bit, and I think it probably did him good.
And the Irish Arkle was obviously quite informative in relation to that particular race. Do you learn anything, or do you do anything differently in how you set out to win the race in a couple of weeks' time, or do you just look after you play the ball, not the man?
Oh, I think we have just got to do our own thing. I was saying, Willie's horse was very impressive, and we know it well because we were first. We had a ding-dong battle in the novice hurdle at Aintree last year, and so technically there's not a lot between the two of them. But John Bonnie's done everything right. He's jumped very well, and I think, as I said, just going to put the finishing touches on at Kempton tomorrow, and then get ready for battle. I think he might just too good to have a little spin round.
Well, look, we're very proud of him, and we wish you well with him. He's been a wonderful graduate for us from the Derby sale. But of course, Tuesday is a big day for you because you unleash Constitution Hill in the champion hurdle. Barry Geraghty and Warren Ewing, of course, picked him up from our November sale as a foal. Can you remember a horse creating this much discussion of yours or otherwise in advance of a Cheltenham Festival?
Yes, some of them get discussion. I think the amazing thing is for a horse to have created this sort of media interest or whatever it is at such an early stage of his career, because he's only had 5 races. Normally you need, in Sprinter Sacras and Altiors and that, they'd been through 3 festivals by then when they sort of became as sort of renowned as this fella is, who literally has had 5 runs in his life. So it's an extraordinary thing to do in that short space of time.
So, Nicky, in relation to Constitution Hill, I've often heard you mention how laid back he can be. At what stage in his career, I want to know about the individual himself, do you start to realise he may be laid back, but there's something below the surface here? Does it happen at home or when you get to the races?
Well, it started with me ringing Barry about 10 times, telling me that I rang him to tell him, and I thought you told me this was a good horse. So it's absolutely horizontal. It shows you nothing. He said, he kept telling me, I promise you it's a good horse. So, one day I said, well, let's stick somebody else on it. And for goodness sake, will somebody wake this thing up then? And we just gave it one squeeze and it took off. And I had to ring back. I said, okay, I forgive you now. He just suddenly found out where the button was that you have to press. It's rather like having a new car. We didn't know where the button was. And, since then it's been very straightforward. But that's that's his strength, is his mind is so strong and so level-headed. He's unbelievable. And let's say it's easy to ride in a race, but you could just follow them around, or you can make the running, you can do what you like. And then when you want to go, you just sort of say, giddy up, and off he goes.
You might only have 5 or 6 runners. It could be quite a tactical affair.
It could be. We might have, I don't know, I don't know where Epitant's going yet. Should go there, or the mares, and First Street, he could go somewhere. And Willie will probably have half an army of cavalry or whatever. And then, there might not be, it's hardly going to be a huge field, is it?
Well, look, the one horse I'm most fascinated by is Shishkin, who's been a good old graduate of ours. Ben Case bought him from the breeder, the Bennetts in Rathbarry, as a foal for 40,000. Virginia Considine picked him up then at the Derby sale. And we had Anthony Bromley on a year ago talking about his selection of Shishkin and how he selected 3 or 4 horses that night. You came up to the Charles Turner yard before the sale started at Cheltenham and you said, I love him. What did you see? What drew you to Shishkin in that first moment?
He's a grand-looking horse. Like anything, you all have horses you like more than others, or more than other people. We all have our sort of own eyes, if you like. But he's a beautiful-looking horse, and he has a lot of presence, and he won his point-to-point, and he looked the sort of out we were looking for, and he is. He's a very good horse.
And of course, he had won his point-to-point over 3 miles. Sholikoff had produced Don Cossack, but you ended up in the first instance with a real sharp 2-miler.
He did. He was that good. So, maybe that's what sort of slightly confused us early on. He was winning Supremes and Arkles and things. So you didn't seem to think there was any great necessity to go any further. But just as he's probably got a little bit older and, the temperature in the water's got a little bit hotter, it seems that he just wants a bit further to help him. Sometimes they get older, they lose a yard or 2 of their speed, and I think that's all it probably was. And, when we upped him in trip the other day, the whole thing sort of fell back into place again.
And do you put the Tingle Creek run down to just that, or do you think there was more at play on that day?
But even if you go back to the race with the Nerjanine at Ascot last year, he was flat to the boards the whole way. Nerjanine set a pretty strong pace that, had Shishkin out of his comfort zone for most of the race. And it was only when stamina really kicked in from the second last, when, to be fair, we looked like we were going to be well beaten, that he suddenly, the stamina turbo kicked in, and we managed to beat Nerjanine, probably for stamina rather than for speed. And again, in the Tingle Creek, it just looked as if he was always in top gear. So, and horses like to be able to race, as I say, in their comfort zone at the pace they can cope with. And it was easy to see the other day at Ascot that, he was traveling from the word go. And there was the pace, the further you go, the pace obviously settles down a fair bit, and it just seemed to suit him really well.
It did. That was clear to see. And of course, it raised some discussion, perhaps not from yourself, that he stayed so well that there is only one Gold Cup. Does it enter your mind at all as a possibility, or do you accept that this is the proven distance?
It's a long way to go, 2.5, 3, all in 3 steps. I would rather, in the perfect world, and there's never a perfect world with horses because there's so many things that go wrong. The way I would look at it is stay 2.5 now, then up it to 3 at Aintree and see how we go. Then when we sit down and discuss the next plan, during the summer, you'd say, well, if he gets 3 round Aintree, are we going to be thinking about the King Georges and things like that? And then, finally up to will you get 3 1/4? That's the way I'd like to do it. It seems the simplest way, even if it's not the most ambitious. And there are plenty of people. There's a lot of advisors out there. Which one I listen to is the difficult bit. There's plenty of people gagging me to run him over in the Gold Cup. Yeah. But there's plenty of others that seem to agree that the Ryanair is the sensible place to go for the time being.
Look, Nicky, it's obviously comforting for us to know that you have enough advice going into the festival, because it would be of great concern if we thought you didn't. Before we leave you, the mares, of which you have many, you have Lucia, Maria's Rock, Epatante, with a lot going on. Can you give us a quick synopsis of where you are there, and we'll wish you well for the festival after that?
Well, this is the whole point. We don't know where Epatante's going to start with, because we're talking with JP quite a lot. It'll depend how the champion hurdle field pans out, whether she goes champion hurdle or switches to the mares and joins in with Honeysuckle. Be a rare champion, the mares hurdle, have the winner of 3 champion hurdles running in the mares race against each other. So you could, with that, we would consider moving Marie's Rock up to 3 and looking at the Stayers hurdle, because I think she won the mares last year and she definitely stays 2 mile 5 round Cheltenham. So why wouldn't she get 3? And then Epatante and Teta Glory, it would come into the mares, and Lucia stays 2 miles in the novice.
Very good. And a quick word on Lucia?
Yeah, she looked very good at Exeter. She's, she hasn't had an awful lot of racing. She's only had 2 runs over hurdles, both in listed races, and she was very impressive both times.
Just one question, I'll leave you on this one. I hadn't planned on asking it, but we joked a moment ago about advisors, but you will have seen the transition of racehorse training from when you had high-class horses and not as many advisors who could, through social media and all of these platforms to ask you these questions. Does it change the pressure on a trainer in 2023 versus 20 years ago, when you have so many different platforms discussing 3 mile, 2 mile mares? Do you find it more pressure? Do you think if you had it when you were a young trainer, it would have been more difficult or not?
Well, there's only one thing I haven't got now, and I didn't have then, is social media. I won't use it. I can't stand it. So
Does it filter through to you?
what anybody says on social media, I can assure you, does not get read.
Well, that's very disappointing.
I can't use it. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to put it on.
We'll pass on what they're saying to you. We'll try and get a synopsis.
The advisors, I hardly read a newspaper. There was one page in the Telegraph last week. On the left-hand side, Marcus Armitage said, "Leave him in the Ryanair. That's the place to be." And on the other half of the paper was Charlie Brooks, who's a good old friend of mine, saying, "Henderson, you're a lunatic if you don't run him in the Gold Cup."
Well, that's pretty much
one
a synopsis.
page in the Telegraph telling me what to do.
Well, Marcus and Charlie are doing a pretty good job of synopsizing social media, so I think you're very much in touch. And listen, thank you very much. I wish you a very smooth 2 weeks and a wonderful week when it does come around. Thank you again.
Not at all. Pleasure. Well done. Thank you very much.
The first of 4 excellent interviews we have for you coming up on the show, and what better way to kick off those interviews than that one with Nicky Henderson. Richard, you got some great insight out of him there on all sorts of runners. I absolutely loved that. Some stuff in there that I haven't heard before. You had him on great form, but let's bring it back to the Arkle, where of course John Bon is the second favourite behind El Fabiolo, who made such a good impression winning the Irish Arkle at Dublin Racing Festival. And then in behind him, we have the likes of Dysart Dynamo and Appreciate It, all that cross form. Bram Bridge is in there. We expect him to go over further. And then we have Gavin Cromwell's Final Orders, who comes here off the back of this recent winning spell from him as well. So, and another Tattersalls graduate, I should say. So the Arkle is, for me, one of the most fascinating races at the festival, let alone on the first day, just because of this clash at the top between the UK representative in John Bon and El Fabiolo, who for me, I think is going to be very hard to beat.
Look, I think there was a lot to come out of that interview, Vanessa, you're right. I think the first thing is to sell your Twitter shares quick, because now that people realise they can't get to Nicky via social media, there's going to be an awful lot less traffic on Twitter, and Elon Musk, more trouble for him, I suppose, but there's a couple of weeks to pick up before the festival, so hopefully the festival's hashtags will keep him going. Look, for me, John Bon is going in the right direction in that I think he felt he had a bit to work on. And given that he's beaten El Fabiolo before, and he's a little bit more value in a fine line, I think I'd have to side with him. El Fabiolo produced, I mean, it's almost counterproductive to say it, but he produced such a good performance in such a grueler of an Arkle at Leopardstown. Can any horse produce that twice in one season? So between the two, I side with John Bon. Eleanor Manning's going to get a great day out again with Dysart Dynamo. She loves the horse, great owner-breeder story, but probably the hill might just find him out. I think with Appreciated, he's interesting. He's a Pat Doyle graduate who was famously third to Envoi in his point-to-point. I think he probably went faster over the first 3 fences than he's ever done before in the Irish Arkle, and that can affect horses. I mean, you almost knew in the Irish Arkle jumping the third that San Roy, Phil Dore and Appreciated couldn't win. They were absolutely flying. I think Appreciated has the class to improve and gallop to the line. He won a Supreme Novice by 24 lengths. He wasn't beaten that far in last year's Champion Hurdle, which was his first run of the year. So look, at 7, 8s, maybe a bit of 10 to 1s, he's a bit of each way value. And if you really want to go outside and I think San Roy will run better again as well. He's twice or 3 times been within 10 lengths of Honeysuckle. Like, that's his class. It didn't happen for him in the Arkle, but there's bits of each way value there. I think Peter Fahey will run Visionarian to run into a place, and you saw that Gabinaco did that last year. If they go that hard up front, some of these will crack. And if you're trying to find one that has picked up pieces before at 100 to 1 and 66 to 1, hoping that he's ridden sensibly, knowing what's about to go on, because the ones that are ridden competitively will either win or crack. So John Bon to win, Appreciated to run very, very well. And if you're looking in the mix for something else, maybe something like a Visionarian that won't get involved until he needs to.
Jamie, I'm going to have to stop going to Richard Pugh first, because he's given us there the 1, 2, 3 in the Arkle, and normally on preview nights you're really just asking for who's going to win the race, and so then I feel like we could throw back to you and we're just like, who wins it? Just keep it simple for me. Who wins it? You don't have to do what Richard does, giving us a 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. He's kind of got. He's doing well now today so far. We
don't normally agree on anything.
He's on it today now. In fairness,
someone's done his homework. That's what we know.
Yeah, maybe that's the difference. You see, I do think that Appreciated is still very interesting. I just feel that the run at Naas after Christmas, it might have just bottomed them out a small bit. Like, the ground was quite soft that day in Naas, and then a quick turnaround back to the Dublin Racing Festival. And then, as Richard said, the speed they went, I just thought he ran a bit flat, and I think Willie will have him back in good shape. So he's the one I actually appreciated to beat El Fabiolo. Whether he'll beat John Bon is the next thing.
Wow.
I've a lot of time for appreciate. I love the horse. I like the sire. I loved his performance in the Supreme, and I just think if things could turn out right on the day for him, I think he's the one that takes the beating. But John Bon is a really, really talented horse, and I think.
Any concerns about that last time out run? I mean, that was not impressive.
No, I think it was, for me looking in, and it's only me looking in, I thought Nicky just felt that he had to run him for experience. Ground was probably tight enough. Harry kind of kicked at a time in the race, and I think Aidan just got caught for a few strides, and then when he clicked into gear, John Bon won well. He went down over the last two fences very well, and no, I think it was no more than a schooling exercise really. But it'll be different in Cheltenham, but he's a very, very classy horse, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Okay, well, let's move on to the champion hurdle, and we'll stick with you, Jamie, so that you don't have to live up to Richard Pugh's 1, 2, 3s in these races. Constitution Hill, he's a Tattersalls grab. We've already spoken to Nicky about him. Great insight from him. I never get bored of hearing those close to Constitution Hill talk about him, because I just love this laid-back mentality at home and then this such impressive way on the racetrack. I guess, look, Stateman's put his marker down when we last saw him. Vauban in there as well. We've got the mares, and then we've got I Like to Move It. Nigel Twiston-Davis team won well when we last saw him. But really, we could just keep this simple. Does Constitution just win the champion hurdle?
Yeah, he probably does on what we've seen. He's exceptional. We were over in Nicky's a few weeks ago on a kind of a Tats on tour, kind of a job, and I actually rode out, which was great. It was brilliant, and was just going up the gallop and pulled up at the top of Nicky's gallop, and we're walking back down through the woods, and next thing looked up and was chatting away to the guy in front of me, and it was Constitution Hill, in front of me. He was that laid back, not very, he's not a big imposing horse or anything, there's no wow factor to him. He's just a very, very get it done, just an extremely talented horse. It's exactly what Nicky said in his interview. I'd say you just have to turn the button on every now and again, and he does what he does. But no, I think now with the mare Honeysuckle out of it, on what Constitution Hill has done, I think he will win the champion hurdle.
Do you have a way in your mind that you think it'll play out? I mean, we saw Stateman keep it simple when we last saw him at Dublin Racing Festival in terms of going out in front, setting his own pace. Would you expect that again? But does that just set it up beautifully for Constitution Hill? It probably does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Nico was in a great position here. The speed they went into Supreme last year, and Constitution Hill had no problem with pace, line up, was actually forcing it from the top of the hill, and then he wins like he did. I don't think it'll matter what way the race is run. Nico will just bounce out, keep it very simple. Stateman is obviously a very, very good horse, but on what we've seen, I think Constitution Hill he's just an aeroplane.
He is indeed. Yeah, it would seem that way. Richard, come on then. What chases him home in spots 2 and 3, please?
I'm not going to go to 3 here. Look, I think as a race, it's a very important race for a generation, because we're moving on from the Honeysuckle Epatante generation. We'll catch that maybe in the mares. They both look exceptional, but let's be clear, Stateman is exceptional. What he has done at Leopardstown, he pushed Vauban and Sharjah out of the way, and then he pushes Honeysuckle out of the way. If there was no Constitution Hill, we would be crowning him as the next great hurdler. And he probably is of an exceptional level. and yet we all believe that Constitution Hill will probably beat him. It's going to, if Paul jumps out to make the running like he did at Dublin Racing Festival and Nico joins him, yeah, I think Constitution Hill will go away from him and win. But we'll finally get to find out, you know, as Nicky said, 5 runs, he's a hero already. I think we'll really find out what we have in Constitution Hill. That's what we all want to know. We want to get under the bonnet, and I think this race has real potential to show us what we've got in both of them, but ultimately in Constitution Hill.
Oh, love it. Even just talking about it gets me excited. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. I have this vision of them swinging into the bottom of the hill. Stateman starts to come off the bridle. Constitution Hill is sat there cantering, and then Nico just waits a little while, a few strides longer than we're expecting, then presses go and says, "See you later, Stateman." Here we go. That's how I see this panning out. Cannot wait. Let's move on to the Mayor's Hurdle, which, as Nicky Henderson has already pointed out, is this mad situation where we may well have the winners of the last 3 champion hurdles here running in the Mayor's Hurdle. Honeysuckle and Epatton, if they choose to go there with Epatton. Also Mary's Rock in there, and Love Envoy. Now, Love Envoy, of course, owned by the Noel Fehily Racing Club, and that is where we can head for our next interview that Richard did. He managed to catch up with Noel Fehily ahead of what is going to be a very exciting Cheltenham Festival for this man and his syndicate.
Noel Fehily, we are 2 weeks out from the Cheltenham Festival. Once upon a time, that was a very exciting time for you as a rider, but the transition has come such that you are now looking at it from a very different set of eyes.
Yeah, definitely. I used to love the build up to Cheltenham. Hard place to go to try and ride a winner, but you always went there excited, hoping you had a good book of rides, and try and get a winner on the card was just look, it's our Olympics. And now running the syndicate, we were lucky enough to go there last year with Love Envoy and get a winner there. So looking forward to it again this season. We've got a couple of darts to fire, so yeah.
I'm interested, you know, somewhere throughout your riding career, you begin to realise that you're not going to do it forever. And how that worked for Noel Fehily from the first ideas you had to where you've landed. How did that journey go?
I was always, I'd say, keeping an eye on when the riding career stopped, because you know it doesn't go on forever, and I suppose every day you go riding could be your last day riding. So I was always very aware of that, and I was always looking to the future, and I was always dabbling in a horse or two here and there, and I bought this place where I live now, with a few acres of land and that, and I always had a couple of horses around the place, so I always keeping an eye on the future. And when I packed up riding, we decided to go down the syndicate route, and that's kind of taken off and gone, you know, a lot better than I probably thought it would do.
Okay, we decided to go down the syndicate route. Just give us a little more detail on that.
Well, when I finished, myself and David Cross spoke about running a syndicate. And excuse me, we said we'd have we put a 2-horse syndicate together to start with. We had 2 horses, and we sold the share, 10 shares in the horse. We went and had a meeting with Mark Ball, who ran Let's Live Racing. Spoke to him about the running of a syndicate, and he kind of told us 10 people was the right way to go. So we started. We found 2 horses. We syndicated them 10 shares per horse. And went from there, really, not expecting to go into any great numbers. But the first horse was a winner, first runner was a winner. And it's just built from there. We seem to have demand for horses. And David is very good at the social media side of it. And, you know, the horses have been running well. We bought a couple of more horses. They've gone well. And it's kind of success has kind of spurred it along, I suppose. And then the Cheltenham Festival last year with Love Envoy to get a winner there was great publicity for us. And it's a great way for the people who were involved in Love Envoy. A lot of them would never have been involved in a horse before. And for them to be able to dip their toe in the water they wouldn't go and buy a horse on their own, but to be able to have a 10% share in a horse, feel very much part of it. It's just massive for people like that.
That's what I admire most, and you must get huge reward out of drawing people into the sport that normally couldn't have dreamt of maybe a ticket at the Cheltenham Festival, but certainly to stand in that winner's enclosure. It must be hugely rewarding to feel like you're giving a bit back, as it were.
Yes, definitely, and that's what it's all about. I think if you buy a horse and it goes and wins any race, most of the people that come in if they've never been involved in racing before, just for them to experience the win in the winners enclosure, everything else, they love that side of it, and they probably wouldn't get a taste of it if they had to go and put their hand in their pocket to buy a horse outright. So if we can bring people in to racing that way, a lot of them might love it and go on and own a horse on their own outright and be more involved in it that way. But just bringing people into the game, I think it's massive for racing.
It's everything. And last year's success of Love Envoi, how big a difference to your business model did that make?
Look, it's obviously made it an awful lot easier to bring people in, when they can see you're buying nice type of horse and all the rest of it. So it was great publicity for us. And, as I said, for the people that are already involved in it, a lot of them have come in on different horses along the way as well. So, look, Cheltenham is the be-all and end-all to me. People say it isn't the be-all and end-all. To me, Cheltenham is the be-all and end-all. And I think we have probably four or five horses possibly going there this year. And the excitement with all them owners that they might have, just to have a runner. They're not worried about winning, just to have a runner. A winner would be brilliant. But just to be involved in the Cheltenham Festival is massive for anyone that can have a share in a horse.
Well, take us back a little to the selection process, because we've seen yourself and David at all of the Cheltenham sales. How do you work the catalogue? How do you select the Love Envoi, the Timuras? Tell us from your perspective.
Well, look, we go to the sales. We haven't got massive budgets. We're not going for the 300 grand horse because we haven't got that sort of budget. So we look at every horse in the sale, and if we find a horse in there, which when we went to Newmarket and saw Love Envoi, she was a nice, solid type of mare. We liked her as an individual. She had won her bumper, and we just thought she was a type of mare we could have a lot of fun with and win plenty of races. Now, did we think she was going to win the Cheltenham Festival? No, we didn't. But you always hope they will. And look, she fitted the bill, and that's all these boutique sales. I think when you go to them, there's always nice types of horses there that have a little bit of form. They're ready to crack on, and they suit our business model that we can have horses ready to go, hit the ground running. I don't think we can get horses, unraced horses, that you have to wait 18 months to find out if they're any good or not, and have 10 people hanging on. So all these boutique sales, when you go there and you see a nice horse you like as an individual, get the right price bracket, has got a little bit of form, then it makes our job an awful lot easier.
And if somebody's watching this and they like what you're doing, which is easy to do, how do they get in touch? How do they get involved?
They can contact the Noel Fehily Racing website and get involved that way, or they can call myself or David Cross. And we don't have actually an event in the sale at the minute, but we'll be buying plenty of horses in the sales coming up. There's a Cheltenham sale. The festival meeting is always a good bunch of horses of that, and there's plenty of sales into the spring, which we'll be looking at all of them. So, if they contact the website or myself or David, we'll soon get them involved.
Well, let's tempt them in and talk about Love Envoi. Great day last year, and she's back for more.
Yeah, definitely. She was unbelievable last year. She kept on improving. She won at Lingfield, won at Sandown in the lead up to Cheltenham, then went and done it at Cheltenham, which was absolutely massive. She got beat in the Grade 1 at Fairyhouse afterwards, but then this year she's bounced back better than ever, and her form this year looks like she's progressing. So look, we're going there full of excitement again, and I think she's got every chance. She deserves to be there.
I remember her dam Love Divided, the O'Toole family knocked great fun out of her, and she looked a fine mare, and Sean Doyle obviously would have remembered her as well when he bought her and sold her on to you guys. Compare having a winner at the festival in this capacity versus a jockey.
Look, it's very different. When you're a jockey, I suppose it's all about you, and there's a certain amount of pressure as a jockey as well on the build up to them big races, and when you win, it's as much relief as anything else. But then on the syndicate side of it, it's for the excitement for everybody. We've got 10 members in the likes of Love Envoi, Tamaris. We got a few others going as well, and their excitement, they're all in WhatsApp groups, and they're all, WhatsApping away there for the last couple of weeks. The build up is massive, and going back to Cheltenham with the likes of Love Envoi, you're going there with a chance. It's going to be very, very difficult to win, but She's done it last year. Hopefully she can do it again. And the excitement from everyone else, it's a great feeling.
That is. And what's your take on the race at the moment? Where do you see your biggest danger, or what do you see as your biggest opportunity?
It's a very, very tough race, I think. Honeysuckle coming into it now, look, she's obviously very good. We don't know yet if Epitant is going to be supplemented. Maria's Rock could go stairs. They're a great bunch of mares. But Honeysuckle, I suppose, I still think Honeysuckle ran quite well the last day at Leopardstown, the Dublin Racing Festival, and that run is going to be hard to beat. I think she's the one to beat probably, but it's a tough race, and our mare's in good form, so we'll go there all guns blazing.
And as I said, you have a second significant dart to throw, because you have Timurus, who you bought from, again, the Monbeg team. He was a Derbyshire graduate from Rathchurton to Monbeg, and then you picked him up for 68,000. Donncha Doyle had proven him at Ballingarry in an auction maiden. But yet you were still happy enough that this was a horse of the calibre that you felt could work for you guys.
Yeah, he was a lovely big 4-year-old when we saw him at down at Newmarket, at the Tattersalls sales down there. Lovely big horse. By Falco, probably wouldn't have been everyone's cup of tea, maybe, I'm not sure, but great walking horse, and look, we were delighted to get him and bring him home, and I think all he's done is progress. He was beaten in his first bumper down in Foss last, but then he went and won next time, and the improvement in him over the summer has been massive. He won well at Chepstow first time. He improved again at Haydock, and I think the last day I was very impressed with him at Sandown. Some people crabbed his jumping and everything else over the second last, but he's actually a very, very good jumper, and I think he just got bogged down a little bit on the ground, but I think he showed great toughness, and I loved the way he came back in the bridle after making a bad mistake, 2 out. I think he's a hell of a good horse, and look, the Irish will bring over plenty of good ones for the Supreme, but again, he deserves to go there, and look, we're delighted to have him.
And you have him entered in the Supreme and the Ballymore, but the Supreme is the choice.
Supreme is the target, yes. If the ground is nice and everything else, that's where he'll go. He's a good traveller. He'll stay at 2.5, no problem. But that's the plan, and we're at the moment that's what's going to happen.
And any others that you want to give a mention to before we let you go?
We got a nice horse from Fergal O'Brien called Camsnas, who won the other day. He's going to go on the Cheltenham bumper. Hacksaw with Willie Mullins, who won in Punchestown, I think. Yeah, Punchestown, his last start. He might go in one of the handicaps. He's got entries, so we'll see how he gets on there, weights-wise and everything else. I think that'll probably be our lot this year.
Look, to be quite honest, Noel, it's an incredible achievement to be bringing 3, 4, maybe 4 or 5 runners to the Cheltenham Festival at such a short space of time. I can't wish you any more success. I think it's a great story for racing. You're engaging people from outside and inside the industry, and we enjoy watching you coming to the sales and picking out the next stars. And you're getting to that stage where people are following you around now, and they're just bidding on what you're bidding on, because you're picking them up at real value. So well done to you guys, and we wish you and David well, and all your owners, in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.
Cheers, Richard. Thank you very much.
Brilliant to have that insight from Noel Fehily. God, I mean, it is just incredible, as Richard wrapped up there, saying that, a syndicate like his can have so many darts to throw at the board that is the Cheltenham Festival. I absolutely love that. But let's bring it back to the Mares' Hurdle, which really could be one of the races, whether you like it or not, because not everyone loves the Mares' Hurdle, but it is a bit of a Marmite race. But whatever way you look at it, it could be, Jamie, one of the races of the festival. If half of these line up, Honeysuckle up at the top of the market currently, Mary's Rock might go stairs, Love Envoy in there, as we've already heard, Brandy Love taking on Queensbrook again. Queensbrook, a horse that I love, and despite the fact she beat Brandy Love the other day, she's still a bigger price. Tell Me Something Girl in there as well, Echoes in Rain. I mean, honestly, these mares, this is exactly what the mares program wants, isn't it? This caliber of mares up at a top level competing against each other.
Yeah, there's great depth in it this year, I suppose, with Honeysuckle and Epitant possibly coming back to it. And then you throw in the Love Envoys, the Brandy Loves, Queensbrook, obviously, after a Punchestown win the last day. It's a very, very competitive race. Look at go find a winner. Marie's Rock maybe is possibly going to go for the stayers. The word is that she might go for the stayers, and that would leave leave it open for Epitante. Honeysuckle, you would imagine on last year's form in a champion hurdle, might have the measure of Epitante. And then you're looking for progressive mares coming through, the likes of Brandy Love Envoy from last year. And look at Queensbrook to be knocking on the door as well. For me, I think Brandy Love might be the mare that might be just progressing. She started back a couple of weeks or last week in Punchestown behind Queensbrook, and if she improves enough from that, it's her first time there. Left-handed might suit her a fraction better, and yeah, for me, she's still kind of the unknown. She beat Love Envoy very well in Fairy House last year. She's still a little bit of the unknown, so I'm going to kind of side with her.
Okay, going with the little bit of the unknown versus the proven performers. Is that a dangerous tack to take, Richard?
Look, I suppose the point I want to make at the outset of this race is this is the most important race in the racing programme ever in my lifetime. From 1988, when Flaky Dove won the champion hurdle, 2016, when Annie Power won the champion hurdle, mares didn't enter in the champion hurdle. Mares didn't enter in the champion chase, and they didn't enter nor run in the Gold Cup in any meaningful way. It was only when a mares programme came along that we got Annie Powers, Quevegas, Apples, Jades, wonderful mares that would be running around France and on the flat had these programmes never come along. So to the BHA, to everyone in Cheltenham, everyone in programming who had the foresight to do this and to push back the ridiculous pushback that they're getting for having a race like this, well done, because I've never watched the Oaks and seen somebody say, yes, she was good, but would she have beaten the Derby winner? And the same for the 1,000 Guineas. This is the most important race that has ever been put into the calendar and ever will be, because 50% of the entire population of foals had limited value. I would say, it might sound like we're patting ourselves on the back a little bit. I'm very proud of the fact we put a lot of our time into mares and Tattersalls, and I look at Honeysuckle, Derby Sale graduate, Brandy Love, who's a February Sale Cheltenham graduate. I think Queensbrook and Tell Me Something Girl went through 3 of our sales as well. So we have a very strong hand in the race from our graduates. I'm delighted we do, because I know it's something we've focused on in particular, because we also support the race and the logic. But look, let's be fair. Why would you get involved in anything other than your heart ruling your head here, Vanessa? We all want the moment of Honeysuckle winning. That's what we want. She deserves success. She's given us so much. I don't care about the form. I don't care what's emerging. I want Honeysuckle to come up that hill in front and show us at least once more. Maybe we'll see her in Punchestown. If we don't, we don't. She owes us nothing. I just want her to win, because she deserves to win. And if you really want to get into the form, if State Man runs a big race, we'll know she's still good enough, and you can back her late, because she's not going to change much in price. Please, Honeysuckle, give us one more.
Oh, I love that. An impassioned loving for the mare's hurdle and for Honeysuckle. And you're so right. Imagine if Constitution
There was something
Hill...
very romantic about that, Vanessa. It was a romantic kind of a spiel, isn't it?
It really was.
You were too cold.
Very
You're just too cold. You need
I've
to
never seen Richard with that before now, to be honest.
There's a soft side to me, Jamie. There's a soft side.
And we love to see it. We love to see it. Let me tell you that. We could do with you feeling a bit more impassioned, Jamie. But anyway.
I didn't like to say it.
But can you imagine if Constitution Hill has just won and the sun is shining, the mood is high, and then Honeysuckle comes along and wins the mare's hurdle? My goodness, the people at Cheltenham, the roof will come off the place. Anyway, we're getting overexcited.
There'll be a lot of discussion, though. There'll be too much discussion then. Why didn't she go for the champion hurdle?
Why are you so cynical? Just
that's what I'll say. That's what will happen. I'm just being the devil's advocate here. That's what will happen.
Enjoy the moment, Jamie. We're getting
absolutely 100%.
Right, let's move on to day 2. Come on, we've got to keep rattling on here, otherwise we'll be here all day long, and nobody needs that in their life. We're going to kick off with, of course, the Ballymore, the Grade 1 over the 2 miles 5 for the novice hurdlers, and Hermes Allen, one for the Brits, is up at the top of the market at 9-4 for the Paul Nicholls team. Impera Pass is next for Willie Mullins' operation, comes here at around the 3-1 mark. Goodland, the good horse for Barry Connell, could be such a good meeting for Barry Connell. Gaelic Warrior is in there, and then other Willie Mullins horses after that. Jamie, we will start with you in this race. Where did you land in the Ballymore?
Yeah, look at this. This looks a very good race on paper again. I kind of have a little soft spot for Hermes Allen. Aidan Murphy bought him at our Cheltenham sale, and he's, you know, he came out of Caroline McCallan's academy up the north. He's just a little bit like Constitution Hill. He's probably not your big scopy model. He's a very sharp, unassuming horse, and that's exactly the way he's raced as well. I believe a little bit like Nicky when Paul Nicholls got the horse, that, you know, he didn't show a whole pile for a while, and then obviously they found that button, and they have found the button, and he's been very, very impressive on what he's done so far. I thought his performance in desperate ground in Newbury was really, really good, and he's a horse that I think I'd like to keep on side for a race like this.
Okay, positive nod. I'm keen to take him on, Richard, but with what I'm not entirely sure at this stage. Please clear the muddy water for me that is the Ballymore.
No, I can't clear it at all. I think Paul Nicholls has landed on one here. I hope he has, because there's just nobody better at keeping them at the top for year on year. So if he's that good, we might get to see a good few years of him. I see Impera passes in here as well. We've mentioned him earlier. And Barry Connell has his Blue Brazil. As Jamie said, look, there's nothing really to add. There's huge depth in the race, but I think Ermay Lane just has that star quality. Caroline McCallan's a daughter of Wilson Dennison, so it's an academy that knows how to produce horses to win at Cheltenham, and I hope for her this can be the one that puts her on the map.
I love that as well. Just say his name again.
I say Ermay Lane. Am I wrong? Well, there's Engwa Lane and there's Sarah Lane, so I don't go Alan with these ones.
I think you're absolutely bang on the money, but I just crucify these names. I'm like very Yorkshire, Hermes Allen, whereas you put that lovely little French twinge to it. It's absolutely brilliant.
I can put the Wexford tang to Hermes Allen.
Allen.
No.
Right. Well, look. Before we go any further, guys, it's time for our next interview, and now we get to catch up with Robbie Power. Of course, he's got a new role with Tats Ireland and with Henry de Bromhead, and now we get to hear him talking all things Cheltenham Festival with our very own French representative, Richard Pugh.
I'm delighted to be joined by our very own Robert Power. You've joined the team recently, and I suppose 2 weeks out from the Cheltenham Festival, it's times like this you realise that you're not a jockey anymore. And do you find a different mindset when you're really in the spring campaign as to when it was during the summer, I suppose?
Yeah, sure. As a jockey, these were the crunch time of the year. Building up to Cheltenham, there was great excitement and anticipation, and this is why you're a jockey, is for all these big festivals coming up, and it all starts with Cheltenham. So I think I'm going to miss it a little bit over the next month or so, but look, I'm happy with the decision I made, so I'm looking forward to what looks to be a fantastic festival. And
of course, the transition that you've taken, it has allowed you so much access to the sport, both through your role with Henry and with ourselves. So you've plenty of interest in the festival.
Yeah, I have a huge amount of interest, and keeping an eye on a lot of Derby Sale graduates, which there will be plenty of at Cheltenham this year, and also my job with Henry gives me that competitive edge still. I didn't retire because I'd lost competitiveness. I retired because my body was in trouble. So it still gives me a competitive edge, and I'm looking forward to what should be a great festival.
And I suppose when you were riding and you had decisions to make 2 weeks out from the festival, will I ride horse A or horse B? You'd have looked at the form. Now that you've made the transition to looking at individuals through the inspection season, pedigrees, confirmation, did any of that cross your mind? You know, the ground might be a bit livelier, I'll go for this particular sire profile, or is that a new addition to your thought process?
No, it's a new addition. You would always, because Cheltenham is generally good ground, so you would look at horses' performances. If you were in a decision between a horse on good ground and a horse on soft ground, you'd be keeping an eye on their on the weather forecast and always trying to delay a decision for as long as possible. But no, this is a different for me now. When it came down to making a decision as a jockey, it was mainly on form and ground.
And you're out on the road, obviously, because we're speaking to you in your car. This is a busy time. This is your new busy time, inspection season for the store sales.
Yeah, it is. Like the build-up to Cheltenham was always busy for me. As a jockey, you're in different yards riding out, trying to get on as many horses as possible. And these 2 weeks building up to Cheltenham, now I'm on the road trying to get as many horses as we can for the Derby sale. So I'm not driving, by the way. I'm parked.
Has anything surprised you? Has anything been unexpected about your travels over the last few weeks that you wouldn't have expected to be the case when you embarked on those first few inspections?
Yeah, I think when I was down in parts of Clare, I think the John Deere would have been a better choice of vehicle now than a Mercedes. But anyway, I've seen some fantastic parts of the country, and it's it's been all going as I expected. I've met some lovely people, and I think I've got on with them all. It's been very enjoyable.
And you've referenced your connection, obviously, to Henry de Bromhead, who's had such extraordinary success at Cheltenham over the last couple of years. We have our own Derby Sale graduate who's flown the flag for us for the last few seasons. How is Honeysuckle?
Honeysuckle's in great form. You know, she suffered defeat for the first time this season. Kelly Alexander keeps blaming me because she's only been beaten since I joined the team, so maybe it is my fault. But no, she's run in defeat. She's run 2 very good races. Stateman is just the new kid on the block, and Pugh as well over longer distances. They're the new kids on the block. The decision has been made by Henry and Kenny that she goes for the mare's hurdle. She's won it before. I don't see any reason why she can't do it again. I've done a couple of Cheltenham preview nights already, and people are saying she's the favourite they'd all like to lay the most for the week, but I don't think that. And I think if Stateman comes out on the race before Honeysuckle and gives Constitution Hill a big fright, Honeysuckle's price won't have shortened at the mare's hurdle. I think at 2-1 she's a value bet.
In your view, is Honeysuckle as good as she ever was and the others have got better, or do you think she's starting to regress a little?
I think she's as good as she was. You know, she's just bumped into 2 younger horses probably that are on the improve. Like she's run 2 good races. I thought she got outstayed in the Hatton's Grace on soft ground, and then she was beaten by probably just a younger, quicker horse in Lepers and the Dublin Racing Festival. So that's why the decision has been taken to step up in trip.
I think it'll be one of the moments of the festival of the decade if she does manage to walk into that winner's enclosure again. Sometimes you have to meet defeat for people to really appreciate you. Of course, Henry has had a good handle on the Gold Cup in recent years as well. Can you give us any informative update on a Plutar from your point of view? How you see his progression at this point in time. If you were the trainer, would you be happy?
Yeah, I'd be very happy. He schooled last week. Rachel schooled him, and he jumps super and looks $1 million. You know, obviously it's not ideal to go into the Gold Cup off the back of a bad run in November. The plan was to run again at Christmas, and he just missed that engagement. But he's had a clear run now since Christmas. Everything has gone perfectly. Touch wood, he hasn't missed a beat. So he will be fit, and if the same Plutar turns up that turned up last year, he'll be very, very hard to beat. Gallop in the Champ or no Gallop in the Champ.
I couldn't agree more. Just a couple of novice hurdlers that are really coming to the fore. You've Hidden Valley Lake, who was sold through the Cheltenham sale in December, having run his point-to-point for Marie Harding and Aidan Murray, and Monty Starr, who's thrown his hat into the ring, a Colin Bow graduate who was bred by Edna Hearn, son of Walk in the Park, Hidden Valley Lake, a Sholikoff. They're really, really exciting and interesting in equal measure.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Hidden Valley Lake got defeated the last day by Monty Starr. I actually saw Monty Starr's full brother at one of my first inspections. So yeah, he's a real nice horse. He improved so much from his maiden hurdle to the Grade 3 in Clonmel, and he's a horse going the right direction. Connections have had great success in that race before with Manila Indo, and Hidden Valley Lake, obviously a little bit disappointing that he got beaten the last day by Monty Starr, but I don't think the ground really suited him on that occasion. I think a strongly run 3 miles will really bring his stamina into play, and he's a strong galloping horse with decent surface over 3 miles. The new track in Cheltenham is all about stamina, and he's got that in abundance. So I think the 2 of them have definitely got good chances in the Albert Bartlett.
And you think that's where they'll both go?
Yeah, I'd imagine that's the plan. I can't see either of them dropping back in trip for the Ballymore. I think 3 miles is their game. So you put the horses in the right race for the horses and not to split them up.
And which one would you ride?
I'd have to wait a bit close to the time before I'd make a decision on that one.
And if it was happening tomorrow, which one would you ride?
That's a hypothetical question, Richard.
It would be a hypothetical answer that we'll run with.
I suppose I'd probably just side with Hidden Valley Lake because he's got that bit more experience than Monty Starr, so maybe just him.
I think we need to give credit to, Rob Acheson, who took him from not being on the list the night of the sale to putting him on the list. I think that was a good move on his behalf because he looks a smart horse going over fences in time as well.
He does, and he's reminded his dad of that a good few times.
And will again, I hope, in a couple of weeks' time. Quick word, you've ridden to Hoopo in Cheltenham, if I'm right, or certainly I think in Punchestown, but you know him well. Where would you slot him in the staying hurdle division? But possibly unfair, you haven't ridden him over that trip, but where does he strike you as being at his best?
The trip is definitely going to bring around the best in him. I won the Red Mills hurdle on him over 2 mile in Gorn last year on very heavy ground. And I actually fancied him going to the champion hurdle last year. I didn't think he was going to beat Honeysuckle, but I thought he'd give her a fright. The ground in Cheltenham on the Tuesday last year was good to firm. He wants cutting the ground. Does he need as much cut over 3 miles? I'm not so sure. He has plenty of class. He's won grade 2s and grade 3s over 2 miles. He has that bit of class. Provided the ground is on the slow side of good, I think he'll be okay. And I can't see by the Thursday in Cheltenham the ground being any quicker than sort of what we call yielding ground. I think that's what it'll be. And I think that'll be fine for him over this trip. He proved in Gorn that stamina wasn't a problem. And as I say, he's got that bit of class over 2 miles. I think in the stairs hurdle, provided I'm hoping he's not a completely ground dependent horse. We'll find out in Cheltenham. But if yielding ground is okay for him, which I want a juvenile hurdle on him on yielding ground, so hopefully it will be okay. I think he'll take plenty of beating in the stairs.
So we'll give you one opportunity, any horse, any race, double-digit figures preferable, that you'd like to put forward as something to keep an eye on at the festival, from Henry's or otherwise. Where's your eye been drawn?
I think the one horse that I'm most looking forward to seeing at the Cheltenham Festival, and he's a horse that got injured last season and probably made my decision to retire a little bit easier because I've ridden him a lot of his work. Jerry Colomb is very, very exciting. I think he could be a Gold Cup horse in waiting. He's been flawless this season over fences, 3 miles, a good gallop over 3 miles. You're going to see more improvement. And I think he's the horse. If I could ride one horse at the Cheltenham Festival this year, he's the one I'd want to ride.
He's the one you'd want to ride. Well, look, thank you for your time. He's obviously a Festival Sale graduate. We have a Festival Sale graduate going into the Gold Cup this year in Braveman's Game. It'd be lovely to think we'd win 2 of them, but we'll take one to begin with. Thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you out on the road somewhere over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see you at the festival, Puppy. Thank you.
Cheers, Richard. Thanks, man.
Wow, well, that really is a ringing endorsement for Jerry Colomb, who we come on to next, because now we can cover the Brown Advisory, the 3 mile Novices Chase, obviously at grade 1 level. And Jerry Colomb is your favourite, the unbeaten Jerry Colomb from the Gordon Elliott Yards. And hearing that insight from Robbie Power, I mean, look, it's hard to crab him given what he's done. And obviously we saw him win the Scilly Isles over here on his latest start. But is there much depth in behind him was a question mark. I had Jamie. He's deservedly at the top of this market. Are you as confident as Puppy Power was there in Jerry Colomb's ability?
Yeah, I think Gordon is quite strong this year in the novice department, the novice chasing department, and this horse is. I just love his attitude. Even the day he won his point-to-point down in Linkstown, it wasn't flash. He beat. He only got up by a kind of half a length or a little bit less, maybe. But it's just the way he does it. He just wins. He wants to win. He's a good jumper. The railway fences down in Sandown can be quite tricky, but this horse down the back, Jordan kind of maybe gave him a squeeze at the last one down the back, and this horse fiddled away, and he was quick away from it as well. So yeah, I'd be very, very sweet on Jerry Colomb. I don't think ground matters. He stays well, and yeah, I think he's one they all have to beat in this.
Okay, not veering away from the favourite. In behind, we've got likes of Mighty Potter, who in the betting currently, who we would expect to see over the 2.5 miles. So Gerhard has, I think, 4 entries, so he could end up anywhere. The Real Whacker is in there too. He's been shown to good effect recently. Time Hill has shown plenty of bounce back over fences when we last saw him. And then there's horses in there who, I mean, look, they've all got loads of options at this stage, Richard, but is it a case of, as Jamie's just covered there with Jerry Colomb, he's sort of not flashy, but was it John Ox who said about See the Stars that he only ever does enough, but his enough is perfectly good enough for me. And the same rules might apply to Jerry Colom in the fact that he's never going to be a flashy horse, but he's always going to do enough. And maybe, especially in a race like this, that might end up lacking a bit of depth in behind him.
Yeah, he's exactly that, Vanessa. He's a horse that does what he needs to do. Barry rode him in his point to point. Puppy and Jamie, like him, can't go against the team. So I agree with you. I think Time Hill is guaranteed to give you a good run. Interested to know with Jamie. I know he's always liked Sir Gerhard. And I think his jumping needs 3 mile. And Jamie had him down as a very sharp 2 miler where he'd run him, because he's been one of the horses that has really stood out for us in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, Willie Mullins, obviously, he made me look like an idiot last year, because I didn't think he'd stay much beyond. I didn't think he'd get 2.5, and he did. So now they're saying he's going to get 3 mile. So I don't think I can go against Willie Mullins. Yeah, I don't know. I think that could be a step too far for him. He's a lot of pace, that horse, and you know, but his jumping, I thought he jumped okay in Gorn. Like, you know, he's a bit sticky. The ground is very, very deep. At that time of the year in Gorn, it's a really, really tough track to jump out of. He was by himself for a lot of the race. You know, he'd no company. And when he clicked into gear down over the last 3 fences, I thought Paul gave him a good squeeze down over the last few. So, look, it'll be interesting to see where Willie will put him in. I think jumping off a sounder surface, we'll see a marked improvement in that horse.
Interesting, very interesting indeed, and fascinating to see where the 2-time Cheltenham Festival winner in Sir Gerhard ends up. But let's move on, guys, because feature race on day 2 is, of course, the Champion Chase. And in here we have the rematch between Energumene, Edwardstone and Editor Digit, the top 3 in the market, all planning on lining up here. And for me, Richard, there is no getting away. Edwardstone just wins this. I know he's second best in the market, but he just wins this.
I'm very much on the fence here. If called, probably Edwardstone. I can't believe I say that. I thought Energumene was the next coming last year, but I'd probably go for Edwardstone. I do want to give a mention that Editor de Geet is by Sadex, and Chacun Poursois, who's still around the 33-1 mark, is by Policymaker. And they both stand about 2 mile down the road for me with Peter Marr. So, you know, in an era where we're focusing on so few sires and we're getting very polarized, well done to him for standing 2 sires that have 2 of the 10 or 12 that are left standing in a Champion Chase, and they don't get talked about. So it's a huge achievement, and sometimes these little achievements in the festival can be overlooked if they don't quite win. But you know, it's and there's probably value in both of them. But yeah, look, to pick a winner, I think it's going to be a terrific race. I'm a little worried that Edwardstone, to me, got a great ride the last day, arrived to deliver his challenge and go and win, and didn't win. So it just does worry me, but I'd probably just about side with him. Don't think there's much between them though.
There really isn't it? It could be an absolutely cracking race. Jamie, where did you land? Who would you like to be riding in this Champion Chase?
I'm going to go back with Energumene. I think he's going to win again. I thought the last day I think he just balked a little bit at the jumps and at the white toe boards and the change in colour. Some people would say it doesn't make a difference. I think it would have made a little difference. And if you're losing even a quarter of a length in a 2 mile division race, championship race, then it's going to matter. So I think Energumene will put in a very, very good performance here.
Okay, your team Energumene, I'm team Edwardstone, and Richard Pugh sitting on the fence a fraction, generally siding with Edwardstone, but will allow you to sit on the fence, Richard, because you have such strong opinions elsewhere. Let's move on to the Champion Bumper, and as you would expect, plenty of Tats graduates in here, including the likes of Better Days Ahead, Did I Ask You That, and Slade Steel. But up at the top of the market, it's for me, heads the betting currently for the Meniers. Willie Mullins train, obviously. A dream to share, next best. Great to see John Kiley with a good horse here and a good bumper horse. Fun in there for Willie Mullins. Ballyburn, again, Willie Mullins. I mean, basically, John Kiley is currently just spoiling the Willie Mullins party in the anti-post betting for the bumper. Jamie, you're the bumper man. Come on, give us the bumper winner here. All of these horses have put their hats in the ring with decent performances, but which one jumps out at you?
Look, I really, really like our horse in the race, Better Days Ahead. it didn't go that well in Down Royal. The first day was a messy old race, but his improvement to the next day in Fairy House was quite good. We were able to take a lead, which I think was important, and he showed a good turn of foot. And we know he stays. He won his point for Warren Ewing in Lisrona, and I just think his record, if he had went to the Dublin Racing Festival and got beaten, then you'd be scratching your head, but he hasn't. Gordon, I rode him the other day, and Gordon has him in really, really good order. He's got really, really strong, and he's a horse I'm really looking forward to seeing now at the festival.
Okay, around about the 12-1 mark, so it represents a little bit of value. What about you, Richard? Who do you fancy in this?
I often find myself biased to the horses that I saw win their point of points in this race, because you've seen them from the outset and you like them. So it's, for me, I saw him beat Rock My Way, I think 10 or 12 lengths when Stuart Crawford had him, and you've liked him ever since because it was a very, very strong performance. He's a worthy favourite. I think John Kiley's horse, if he was a Willie Mullins horse, I think 5-1 is an insult to John Kiley. We know how good a trainer he is. He was wow in the Grade 2 bumper in the Dublin Racing Festival. But I also saw Better Days Ahead, Warren Ewing at him in Lisrona, and he was one of those horses, he caught you right through the early part of the race in Lisrona and looked very, very good. I think there's no doubt he's the value. There's no way he's a 12-1 shot. It was a messy race in Down Royal. So if you like not an outside bet, but if you like a bit of value, it's Better Days Ahead. A likely winner, toss a coin between It's For Me and A Dream to Share, because it's going to be another cracking bumper.
Well, on that basis, though, A Dream to Share is the one to go back, given the price difference. And as you've said, if he was trained by anyone else, the old cliche that is, he may well be shorter than he currently is. But Better Days Ahead is the one the boys have flagged up as a bit of value. And of course, as Jamie has already mentioned, he was sold by Warren Ewing at the sales for a tidy profit, and we can catch up with him now.
Warren Ewing, you are 2 weeks out from the Cheltenham Festival as a producer of Rock My Way, Constitution Hill and Better Days Ahead, the vendor of Intense Approach, the first winner by Jack Hobbs, who won his 4-year-old maiden last Saturday, the trainer of Brain Power, a leading fancy for the Hunter Chase on Friday, and the father of Sam, one of the main emerging talents from the National Hunt ranks in Ireland. It's an incredible way to go into the festival with an interest from so many different facets of the industry. Exciting times.
Yeah, really exciting. Yeah. That's great to follow on the horses that you've sold, and it's great for them to hit the highs. Obviously, Sam's the big, massive interest of mine. I followed them all through right up to now, and hopefully I'll go there with some leading chances. And yeah, I have a nice horse in the sale again, thank God. Seems very good. Very straightforward horse. Very smart upcoming star that I invested quite heavy in. I've got 2 or 3 of them now. So
well, let's start with him. So I was in Armagh on Saturday, and Intense Approach made all the running under your rider, Dara McGill, a good young rider. And I don't know much about Jack Hobbs, but if his athleticism and enthusiasm or anything to go by, you keep an eye out for him, because his jumping was electric, and yet he found so much up the hill in Armagh. Is this what you found in the sire?
Yeah, that's what I found. They're out and out stairs with a bit of class. The 3 I have jump exceptionally well. Very straightforward horses, and it takes a lot of staying around Armagh. It's the climb from maybe 2 furlongs out there's nowhere else like it. It's just it's a tough track, and we're going there pretty hopeful with him now. He's a great mind and just wants to win. You know what I mean?
And 12 months ago, on this same weekend, you were in Lisrona with Better Days Ahead, who won his point and went on, sold at the Cheltenham Festival sale to Bective Stud and Gordon Elliott. And he was very, very impressive in his bumper at Fairy House last time. A leading fancy for the bumper.
Yeah, gorgeous horse too. Bought him off John Blaheen, recommended him to me. Horse that really travels well and jumps well, and I think you'll see better of him again once he goes hurdling and fencing. You know, he's an out and out stayer too. Very similar type of horse to the horse that won the other day. Just keeps grinding, a bit of class, and I think Jimmy's very sweet on him, rides him. I think he'll take a bit of beating there, hopefully.
And a son of Milan, bred by TJ Nagel, you can see the staying pedigree that he has. As you say, there's only better to come, better days ahead. Well named. And of course, another horse you sold with us since last year's Cheltenham Festival sale that I think everybody knows by now, son of Getaway, Rock My Way.
Big horse now. He's 17.2, and I really like this horse. I pushed him to a lot of people, and a lot of people were saying he's too big, but he's a very athletic horse, out of an old Vic mare. He's going to go a long way too. So he's a cracking stand horse too. Really looking forward to that now. And it's nice that Sid Hosey can get going with a horse like that too. You know what I mean?
Flying the flag foremost for you on day one will be Constitution Hill, a €16,500 purchase from the November sale as a foal. Do you remember first seeing him, or what drew you to him?
Yeah, I do. I love his Dam Line King's Theatre mare, and Blue Brazil was starting to get going there a bit. He had a few runners. He had a good filly in France, and Wilson Dennison had a nice horse, that Blue Flight, I think he was called. Just a bits and pieces about him. And this horse was walking around the ring. He had a lovely manner with him, athletic, but very laid back. Nothing was fizzing him there at the sale. And I said to Barry, "Well, come on, we'll look at this lad," and we went ahead and bought him. I got all through, and Barry sent him up to me now. He was just from day one. Barry says he's very laid back, and from day one when he got into company and you give him a click, he grew about 2 foot, and there was nothing. I had a nice bunch of young horses that year, and I was just playing with them the whole time, you know, just different class.
You had a young horse that should have gone point to pointing, but was bought before he went down that route. Brain Power had a good career before he made his way back to you. Can you tell us the Brain Power story? Because it's a great story to see him coming back full circle to Bernice Stables.
Yeah, Brain Power. We sold him to Michael Buckley as a good horse and a piece of work, and it worked out well. He won his bumper. He was in training with James Jenkins. Then a friend of mine had trained him and won the bumper for him, and went on then to go and do bigger and better things. Yeah, and that was the connection we made with Michael. And then Michael got Constitution Hill. Nicky just didn't think the Brain Power had enough of that hard racing, you know, and I asked Michael, could I have him back, and he very kindly gives him back, and as a schoolmaster for Dara, and just to help the young horses along too, and he did. He gives him back very kindly, and sure, we've had great fun with him now. He's won four open pointed points, and unlucky not to win the other two. He fell cantering upsides in front and won him, and Dara fell asleep in the other one, I think.
So there's a swap involving Constitution Hill, who could win the Champion Hurdle, and Brain Power, who could win the Hunter Chase on the Friday. That'd be quite the swap. But lovely to get those horses back, having had them at the start of the career, to have them at the end of the career.
Yeah, you know, Brain Power, he loves his work still. You know, he skips out of the yard, and he's just the man about the yard. You know what I mean? He's by no means finished with, you know what I mean? There's lots more to come from him, point to point and Hunter chasing, and it's great for Dara too, you know, a young fella getting to ride that type of horse. You know, when I was riding, it would have been brilliant to have something like that, you know. Just very hard to get on those open horses, those good ones. Like,
so I think I know the answer to this, but you could produce the winner of the Champion Hurdle. You could train the winner of the Hunter Chase. You could top the festival sale, or you could be the father of a winning jockey at the Cheltenham Festival. If I could offer you but one.
And Sam, every time. Every time.
It's only 13, 14 months since he had his first ride over fences. It's been quite an exceptional progression, because the flat to jumping progression is not something that comes naturally to everybody. So it's been a real progression to see him taking such a strong place in Gordon Elliott's pecking order. You must have enjoyed that progression.
Yeah, okay. Sam's been very exciting to watch, all through pony racing, right up through Jers, and now in the Gordons, and getting high profile rides there at different times, riding Dagger Roll, even in the flat race, you know, it was great excitement. And then like riding in the Fiestas and all the big races there. Just riding in those races for a young fella his age is brilliant, you know. And he's only going to get better. The more chances he gets, I think he's well able to take them, you know. It'll be nice to see him ride at Cheltenham and hopefully go there with a few chances. I know if he gets to the back of the last, it'll be a strong man to beat him from there to the finish.
Yeah, and very quick with his hands. He can get that stick through very quick. I mean, I was in Downpatrick over the summer, late summer, and he just got touched off on a 3-mile handicap chase. He goes down to Dundalk and rides the winner that night, over to give Peregrine Run a terrific ride on the Saturday, and then the Foss Last champion hurdle on Effernock Fizz on the Sunday. Very versatile rider.
Yeah, he's always been very talented. He was schooling my 4-year-olds when he was 12. I think he was going up the chute there and riding around point-to-point tracks, and just very natural all the time. He always had Derek and Jamie would always been very good to him and giving him plenty of advice, and he'd always be copying, watching videos of them riding. Derek especially was besotted by him as a kid, like, and would slow all the actions down going into a fence and try and copycat him, you know what I mean, in the paddock and stuff. So he's learned a great bit from all them, and sure he's still going to have to keep learning now, but he's only 19, so he's going good.
I think any of us who know you know the work that you put into it on all levels, and you don't land in this position 2 weeks out from a Cheltenham Festival by accident. So firstly, well done, and secondly, good luck. It's a great position to be in going into the festival, and I hope all 4 of the dice can land for you, because it's a very exciting position. Well done and good luck.
Yeah, thanks very much, Richard. Yeah, it'd be special. It's special to be going there with them chances, I think. So, thank you.
Oh, it was great to hear from Warren and Richard. You must get some enjoyment out of doing these interviews. Some great insight.
Look, I've known Warren for 20, 25 years, and to see his progression, his work ethic, to get him to, I think, a unique position that he could produce Constitution Hill, Better Days Ahead, Rock My Way. He could train the winner in Brain Power. He could have another Cheltenham Festival sales topper with his Jack Hobbs, and he could watch his son Sam ride a winner. Just to have those various different facets going into the festival, it's credit to his hard work, and well done to him, and his insight is always interesting.
Well, absolutely incredible, really, when you list off those potential achievements in such a way. Let's move on to day 3, guys, because we can kick off with the first race there. That is the Turners. I love this race, the middle distance novice chasers. I don't know why, but I love this. And Mighty Potter is currently the 11-to-8 favourite, and deservedly so. Been such a fan of his when he was over hurdles, but now he's stepped up over fences. I know he's still a work in progress in some areas, but he just looks a class act to me. However, I am worried about Banbridge in here. Richard, we'll kick off with you here. I thought he ran an excellent trial race, 4-stepping back up in trip when we last saw him in the Irish Arkle Banbridge. But he might be bumping into a well above average horse in Mighty Potter.
He's the banker of the meeting for me. I can't see him being beaten. I think he'd win the Arkle or any of the 3 novice chases. I think he's so much. His jumping is so electric. He'd drop back. He mightn't feel like a natural 2-miler. He'd be one of those that would have a high cruising speed. I think, like Nicky Henderson described with Shishkin, I think he'd just get away with it because he's so good. He probably is in the right race here, but I think we'll see him over a longer trip in time. I think he's everything you want in a chaser, and he's the most exciting young chaser around at the moment, and he's my banker for the week.
Wow. Okay. Banker of the week. Do you feel as strongly, Jamie? I mean, you were strong on Derek Lam as well. but another one from the Gordon Yard in another novice chase. Expecting the same amount of confidence now from you, please.
Yeah, I think like his jumping is just a real key to him. He's able to do it with such ease. You know, maybe in the Drinmore, he got a little bit careless down over the fourth and third last before he turned in. But when he turned in and he got company again, he was electric down over the last two fences. And I thought at Dublin Racing Festival there, he was exceptional. You know, and yeah, I think he's a class horse. I love the way Joseph has campaigned Banbridge. I do think that he has a good chance, but just ultimately whether he have that class that Mighty Potter has. You know, Mighty Potter is a grade one hurdler. Banbridge is progressing nicely. We know he'll stay on the back of what he did at Dublin Racing Festival last day. So he's a worthy opponent, but I agree with Richard. I think Mighty Potter is just, he's exceptional, and I cannot wait to see him do what he does in Cheltenham.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page then. Banbridge sort of represents that very solid yardstick, but Mighty Potter might just have that real top draw class about him. I think we've probably seen glimmers of it already, but it could all come together on the day for him at Cheltenham. So something to really look forward to there, and could be a very big week obviously for Gordon, but specifically with his novice chasers. Exciting times. Let's move on to the Ryanair, and this race has really had a shake up. Richard said at the start of the show that some of these races looked a bit straightforward sort of 4 weeks ago, and now have had some sort of elements thrown up in the air. And again, this replies to the Ryanair, Richard, because of course what Shishkin did when we saw him at Ascot, we've already spoken to Nicky Henderson, but wow, stepping him up in trip looked the absolute key to him. And it was hard. I mean, I was sort of against him going into Ascot, but it was hard to find any real fault in that performance.
Look, I've been a fan of Shishkin from day one. I knew the late Eileen Bennett, who decided to send her mare to Sholikoff, and how well that worked out. He's a wonderful graduate of ours. He was through November Derby and then through a Cheltenham sale. And we do, I suppose everybody does, if you're a producer or if you have any connection to Cheltenham, we're very proud of our graduates. And he's been through 3 sales and he served us so well. But like you, I wobbled. I thought, I'm not sure. Nicky, in his interview, gave every answer I wanted. He pointed out how last year he felt his stamina beat Energumin, and why this is the race for him. So I'm so glad to see him back. I think he wins. I hope he wins. But at 10 or 12 to 1 and 16s in places, the horse that was third in last year's champion chase, beaten 12 or 13 lengths, backed that up over 2 mile in Punchestown, beaten 10 or 12 lengths, goes to Down Royal and wins. And he was disappointing in the King George, but they've put him away. He's back here fresh. He's the most over-criticised horse in training. But if Henry gets his team right in Cheltenham like he has done before, 16 to 1 in Volin each way, she has to be worth a shot.
Oh, I think all trust has gone in that horse for me. But look, I can see the case you're making, but he makes me.
Okay. I've said each way. So he's won Leopardstown Grade 1 December 21. He's third, each way pays out in a champion chase. He's third, each way pays out in Punchestown. He comes back and wins, beating Kemboy, won a couple of days ago in Down Royal, and he's had that one bad run. And as Jamie Cott has told us, he can afford one bad run. I have to give him a little chance.
Hey, look, who am I to argue with you, our encyclopedia, when it comes to racing knowledge? I'm not really pushing back too hard, but it's just the trust issue. I've got trust issues in life in general, but specifically with Envoy Allen.
Not this show, Vanessa, not this show, Vanessa.
Not this show, sorry. I got confused. Jamie, let's bring it back onto the horses. Can you see the case for Envoy Allen behind Shishkin in the places?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a horse. I was in Down Royal when he won the James Nicholson before Christmas, and I get a kick out of horses that you're associated with, what you see that come through the point field. It's nice to see them back on track, and I thought he was good in Down Royal. Obviously, the King George went poor, but he is a horse on his day. He can put in a really, really good performance. I think this race will suit him. Left-handed will suit him. He's a 2-time Cheltenham Festival winner. so he does have a chance. Shishkin, great to see him back. Another great story, like to see him back on track, stepped up and trip. So like there is, Shishkin put in that great run in Ascot with Energamine last year and then just bombed out a little bit in Cheltenham last year. So there is that unknown, will he back up another good run with Shishkin? So, and then Allen is the same, but Henry's horses seem to be in good form, and I think at a bit of each way money, Allen could be the one that could chase him home. I think Fury Road, came out of Derby sale. He was a 200 grand purchased out of Derby sale, and he's one that could sneak into the each way money as well.
Okay, some each way shouts in there from the boys. Let's move on to the feature race on day 3. That is, of course, the Stayers Hurdle. Always a fascinating and pretty deep division this time around. And again, another race that's had recent shake-ups to the market. Blazing Carl back with a bang for the Charles Burns team and now heads the market. Tupu for Gordon Elliott has put down his marker when we last saw him. Mary's Rock, they're making noises, as Jamie's already mentioned, that she is going to be stepped up in trip to this division. Flooring Porter, already proven at this level. Home by the Lee has stepped forward on what he's done last season. God, the list is actually endless here. Richard, we'll come to you first. Can you, unpick the mess that is the Stayers Hurdle division? Not a mess, but a deep web, actually.
Definitely not. How would you want to pick that? Tehupo, I don't know if maybe he wants a cut on the ground, or maybe he's just the youngest, classiest horse in the race, so he's a worthy favourite. Blazing Cal, can you trust him to back it up? Charles Burns makes no secret of the fact that he just finds it hard to catch him right, but does seem to have him right now. Rees Rock, I do think, listening to Nicky, probably will go here. Home by the Lee, needs a bit of space in his races. That doesn't suit Cheltenham. Flooring Porter hasn't had the best run into the race and hasn't shown the same level of form. So I end up down in the betting with Classical Dream, going Cheltenham proven, classy horse over 2 mile, probably shouldn't be 12 to 1. Maybe I've missed the memo that he's not had a good run into it. He obviously hasn't run since, but there isn't a good programme for these races in Ireland after the race he ran in the Hatton's Grace. So at 12 to 1, I'd possibly chance betting him, but I think Tehupo's a worthy favourite.
Yeah, I can see the case for Classical Dream. He's a really classy act when they get him right on the day, and he could get conditions to suit in a race like this. Where did you land in this race, Jamie?
I suppose I like Tehupo. I think his profile is good. The only worry I have is ground. As Puppy said in his interview, like, he didn't go on the ground there last year. I know that was over 2 mile, but is he going to be a little bit ground dependent? He seems to be so good on digging the ground. We're going to be very lucky to get, what I would call good healing ground in Cheltenham. It's been a very dry time, and so he is interesting. He is an unknown. On form, he definitely has a chance. He could be the classiest horse stepping up the 3 mile. But I can't get away from Flooring Porter. I think he's going to come back and win a third Stairs. I think Gavin has campaigned him well. He's skipped Dublin Racing Festival. He actually ran well at Christmas, and I think Gavin's horses are in brilliant form, and I think Flooring Porter is going to come back and win a third Stairs.
Wow, one for the quirky ones. Okay, like it. Let's move on. Day 4, final day, few races to rattle through very quickly on the Triumph Hurdle. Lossiemouth up at the top of the market has been there the whole way through, really, for Willie Mullins, the filly that had so much hype beforehand, which was beaten when we last saw her by Gala Massot from the same yard, and then Blood Destiny splits them again from Willie Mullins' yard. Comfort Zone in there for Joseph O'Brien. I think there's probably a market priced up for the UK brigade, not even having a runner in the Triumph Hurdle. I mean, in the top half of the betting, Gary Moore's Beau Zenith is the only one that represents the UK really at any sort of significant price. Obviously, scriptwriter disappointed when we last saw him. Wouldn't that be a tragedy if we get a Triumph Hurdle with no UK runner, Jamie?
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I didn't. I didn't really realise that was that serious. Yeah, I don't know. Like the filly lost him out. She got a hard race the last day in Leopardstown, and Willie alluded to that after the race. And it's very interesting that he did say that. So like she is a filly. Like how hard can you be on a mare like that and finish in second? I don't know. I think it'll be a big ask for her to step back in, but there's a horse at a big price, and this is a big price. He ran the other day.
Here it comes.
John McConnell's horse. He was second in Fairy House the last day. Horse called Hypotenuse. I pronounced it right, Richard?
Equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. Maths class many years ago. Still sticks there.
The brain never stops working, Richard. It
never stops working.
Yeah, I think it was his first run over hurdles. I thought he ran really, really well the other day. He just got a little bit tired maybe, and I think he's going to bring him to Cheltenham, and just at a big, big price, he could just give punters a bit of fun.
Wow, yeah, around 40, 50 to 1 mark. Beat that, please, Richard Pugh. I don't think you can, surely.
I'm absolutely scrambling here. There's no way I'm going to let him away with a 50 to 1 shot. We're quite competitive. So where I've gone is, so Ben Pauling, as we know, has done an incredible job since he moved to his new yard. His strike rate is off the scale. He's had his best season ever, and he's left a horse in by Morandi called Bad. So Bad hasn't run in England or Ireland. He's winner last time out in November in France, has 2 or 3 runs over hurdles. He was second, first. He's progressive. I know absolutely nothing about him up to 2 minutes ago when I went to look for a 50 to 1 shot to match Jamie, but I think he's the one to watch. 50 to 1 Bad. You heard it here first.
This is shocking. This is actually shocking. He has just pulled something with no homework. He's done no research. And he has.
I'm all over, Jamie. I'm all over it.
I won't lie. This is very, very unlike Richard Pugh to do something.
Yeah, but that's what the competitiveness brings out in him. These random shouts. You know what will happen now? Bad will go and see off your horse in the finish of the Triumph Hurdle. And
we do a match bet. We'll do a match bet. Bad and Hypotenuse.
Yeah, there we go. Match bet. I like it at the 50 to 1 shot. Right, guys, let's move on to the Albert Bartlett. Now, this is another race. There's so much depth in here. It's funny, we've spent all season moaning about a lack of runners, a lack of competitive action, and now we're doing this Cheltenham preview, and I keep coming to these Grade 1 races and making the point that there's a whole load of depth here. Well, in a few of them anyway, but really this race, Corbett's Cross put down a massive marker over the 2 miles, believe it or not, when we last saw him at the weekend. He's at the top of the market now, a springer in that market. Embassy Garden has been up there for a long time for the Willie Mullins team. Hermes Allen, obviously, we expect him to go over the shorter distance. We've already discussed the Henry the Bromhead horses in Hidden Valley Lake and Monty Star, both of them roughly the same price. Obviously, they met when they were last seen. This is one of those races where I'm not sure. Well, until we saw Corbett's Cross, Richard, I didn't think there was a standout star in the Albert Bartlett. And now he's put his head above the parapet in a sort of major way, I think.
Yeah, look, in fairness to Eugene O'Sullivan, he brought him to the festival sale last year and didn't manage to sell him, and kept him, and he proved he did the right thing, and managed to sell him since, obviously, to Emmett Mullins, and he put down a big marker, found a 50. The horse he beat is a horse I'm very fond of as well. But look, sometimes, and again, when I do what I do, it sort of leaves you a little biased. Hidden Valley Lake was a horse that caught my eye after one circuit of his point to point. He just seemed to be going in slow motion. Marie Harding over the last couple of years, you mentioned Ben Pauling's good strike rate. Her strike rate is exceptional, and Aidan Murray knew he'd landed on a good horse early on in his career. I was surprised he wasn't on Henry's list. Rob Atchison put him on the list. He's just a horse I like. I don't like following horses that were beaten on their last run, but I think this race will suit him. Big striding horse, and I'm glad to hear he's going this direction. And just a piece of irrelevant information, Monty Star, the horse that beat him, when Jamie Codd retired from point of points, he rode, I think, Supreme Gift. Monty Star finished second. He left a right one behind him the day he retired. I think that's right, Jamie, isn't it? Barry O'Neill rode him that day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Check that out for knowledge. This is what I'm talking about, whether it's maths, whether it's point to points, whatever it may be, Richard Pugh has the answers.
Hidden Valley Lake for me anyway. Hidden Valley Lake's the winner.
Come on, Jamie, tell us, what do you fancy in the Albert Bartlett? Are you with Richard with the Hidden Valley Lake angle?
Yeah, he definitely has a chance. Like his profile. Think he got bogged down a little bit in Clonmel the last day. It like, you know, Monty Star is a nice horse, and he will go there with a chance as well. I honestly do think that this is quite a good race, and I think Gordon holds probably card in it. 3-card Bragg is a really good horse. Came out of Derby sale out of Ivy Rotwell's draft, and he's a lovely horse. He's very likable. We think he'll stay well, jumps well. I think will handle the ground. Just a very likable horse. And the other horse that I think has a massive chance at a bit of a price is a horse called Search for Glory, if he goes here. He was a horse from John Costello, and he was third behind Hidden Valley Lake and Monty Star and Clonmel. Not that far behind him, and you're talking about those two horses, then you have to put him in the mix. I think the extra triple suit, the better ground will suit him, Fame and Glory. Yeah, I think two of Gordon's here have very strong chances.
Okay. All right, comprehensive view of the Albert Bartlett. Let's move on. The big race, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, the last race we're going to be covering in detail, getting towards the end of the show. And Galopin Des Champs is your very short price favourite for this. The class act, 6-4 at the top of the market for the Willie Mullins team. Proved his stamina around Leopardstown when we last saw him. Can he go that extra bit further and take a Gold Cup? He's on the rampage. Plutard, last year's winner, follows him second best in the market at a much bigger price. Noble Yates in there, the Grand National winner. This really is a Gold Cup with a bit of everything. So you've got that star quality of Galopin Des Champs. You've got the past winner of a Plutard. You've got this weird profiled horse in Noble Yates having won a Grand National. And then you've got the kind of, like, is it the nearly horse? I think it's unfair to call Brave Man's Game the nearly horse, but this is a horse that has everyone connected to him, has had so much faith in as a Gold Cup horse the whole way along, and now he gets his opportunity to show it. And then further back in the betting behind him, you've got a kind of slogger in Statler stepping up into this open division and looking to take this race as the sort of, yeah, maybe not the class act, but more of the slogging sort of stayer in behind them. So I've set the stage perfectly for you, Richard, there. Who wins the Cheltenham Gold Cup? Which profiled horse wins it?
Brave Man's Game.
Boom. Right. Here we go. Okay.
We nearly had a festival graduate win with Manella Rocco. Actually, he topped the first festival sale, and Native River just chinned him. I think this time it's going to happen. I think he's a horse that took a long time to strengthen and to really find his way. I think he had so much class in his early days. Obviously, that's what Paul Nicholls was exuding, was all this class he was seeing. But I think it's come together for him. And I think, irrespective of whether you think he wins or not, an 8-1 shot, you know, behind some of the horses he's behind, I think that's probably very unfair to him. So his value, as much as I believe he's the likely winner. Galopin Des Champs has impressed me all year. You couldn't but be impressed by him. At 5-4, I think he's plenty short now. He has that extra 2 furlongs up the hill. Noble Yates, Grand National winners don't have a good record. I know he's been unique, but you know, he's a lot to do to push those stats away. From the moment a Plutard went by the line last year, I thought, you're going to struggle to back that up. I don't think you'll ever see the race run like that again. He's a horse that does get beaten. You know, Castlegrace Paddy has beaten him recently. Manella Indo's beaten him. Galvin has beaten him. He pulled up the last day. He's not a constant. He doesn't hit the scoreboard every time. So and Statler's been beaten his last 2 runs, and Gold Cup winners tend to be winners. So it's Galopin Des Champs, Brave Man's Game, and a head-to-head to me. One of them is 5-4. One of them is 8-1. I know which one I'd be backing.
Wow, interesting. That angle that you come at with Brave Man's Game being a stronger horse now. One of the quotes of the season that really stuck with me was Paul Nicholls saying that, you know, previously if you'd cantered him up that steep hill gallop of theirs, once would have been enough, whereas now he can bounce up there twice and he doesn't need a quiet day the next day. He's just physically improved that much. Thought that was really telling. Jamie, are you with Richard on the Brave Man's Game bandwagon, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, Vanessa. It's a Gold Cup that offers so much with what's in it. We're looking for Galopin Des Champs to be the potential superstar, and step forward. He looks exceptional. But and then you've come a Pugh one bad run this year, was so impressive in the Gold Cup last year, was second behind Manila Endo. Manila Endo beat Statler, who's second behind Galloping Deschamps then at the Dublin Racing Festival. The form is there. Noble Yates goes to Aintree, beats Lucinda Russell's horse, a High Senior. A High Senior comes out and beats him in Cheltenham again. It's all muddling form, conflated, throw him into the mix. I like the way they've kept Conflated fresh. They didn't go to Dublin Racing Festival. He has to have a great chance, stepped up in trip. I think he's worth a chance at the trip as well. It's going to be a really, really good race. I cannot actually nail one horse down. I know this is very boring, but I actually can't nail a horse down. It's going to be fascinating viewing. I think there's 6 or 7 horses here that you could possibly say could win a Gold Cup, and you wouldn't be surprised if they did. And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Jamie, could Ewing be one of them?
No.
You're looking well, Jamie. You're looking well.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic story, Richard. But can he? On all known form, he can't. I was in America. I saw him win that day in the American Gold Cup, and he's not a big horse. I know he's won the Sandown, the old Whitbread, in a competitive Gold Cup, to hold his own ground, to jump. I don't know. Look, it's definitely worth a chance. But I think there's a few horses there that should have the beating of him. But look, at fair play to them. They're giving it a go. They have a horse that is good enough to go to a Cheltenham Gold Cup. So best of luck to him.
It's a mad old race. I don't know why I'm letting you get away with sitting on a Cheltenham Festival preview show, Jamie Codd, and not tipping the horse in the Gold Cup. But anyway,
I know. I can't believe I'm not nailing down something, but I actually can't. I just think it's. I don't know. No, I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it.
No, look, it's going to be an absolute belter. And we managed to talk about the Cheltenham Gold Cup without even mentioning Protectorat, bolted up in a Betfair Chase, of course. Ahoy Senor got a brief mention there, but really should have got more than that. But that's the depth we're talking about. It's set. If they all line up to be an absolute belter, I'm taking a swing for what it's worth with Noble Yates. I know he's got this bizarre profile, but just the way in which he goes about his races, he'll come off the bridle early, but he'll finish with a flurry. And at the prices, he might be able to fill the places. Look, guys, we're nearly at the end of the show. Say that again.
Could have cheek pieces.
Cheek pieces would be interesting. That would sharpen him up, like that angle. And Emmett Mullins, you wouldn't put anything past that man as a trainer. Right. We're nearly at the end of the show. So what we want to do now is nail down any other horses that you want to mention first and foremost in any other races. Richard, we will start with you. This isn't your naps as such, but this is just any dark horses right now or anything that you think we should be flagging up.
Look, I'd love to see David Christie win the Fox Hunters. It was stolen from last year, Winged Leader. He won last weekend. I think Fossilay is probably his best chance. He hasn't been well lately, and my result of the week would be he's had so many top class pointers. He deserves to have a Fox Hunters in his CV, and I hope he gets it. So Fossilay or Winged Leader, I just hope they can do it.
And Jamie, what about you? Any other horses that you want to mention before we do our naps?
American Mike obviously might step back into the boys race, the conditional jockeys race. So back in a handicap, would be interesting to see how he'd fare out in something like that. Okay, a class act or a potential class act in a handicap, although he has let us down a few times more recently. But that is an interesting angle for sure. Right, let's wrap up the show with our naps, please. And given that you've been strong on a few horses, I wouldn't like to guess where we're going to land here. So we will start with you, Jamie, please. What is your nap of the meeting? Mighty Potter. Mighty Potter, right, okay. And I'm fearful that you might have just stolen Richard Pugh's nap at the meeting.
Absolutely. Mighty Potter, I'd throw Shishkin in if you want something different, but I just think he's the one. Wow, all aboard Mighty Potter. Very interesting indeed.
Right, I think that about wraps up the show. Boys, thank you very much as always. It's always a good bit of fun doing this, and we get a bit of different insight because of that breeding and sales angle that, of course, Tattersalls brings to the table. So thank you, and Richard, to those interviews as well. Absolutely excellent from you. Really different insight and some different names thrown in there as well. Much enjoyed it as always. Everyone, good luck with Cheltenham. Good luck with your anti-post bets. Have a good week. Enjoy it, and hopefully it's going to be as good as we've teed it up to be. That was your Tattersalls Cheltenham Festival preview show.